Yes, there are two major headlines as we come on the air tonight, putting scientists at odds with the Trump administration. Researchers behind one of the leading coronavirus models, one that the White House has repeatedly cited, now says most of the country should not consider lifting stay-at-home orders until the end of May. The new model comes as protests to reopen are growing, and just as some southern governors are already loosening their restrictions. Meantime, tonight, the scientist in charge of coordinating the government's search for a coronavirus vaccine says he has been abruptly ousted from his job because of what he calls politics and cronyism. Dr. Rick Bright, the head of a little-known agency called BARDA, says he was sidelined after refusing to push for what he calls, quote, on-demand access to hydroxychloroquine. That is the drug that President Trump has repeatedly mentioned as a treatment for COVID-19, even though it hasn't been approved for that use. Now, all of this as the death toll in the U.S. has now passed 46,000. Our team is covering all of the breaking news tonight. CBS's Mola Lenghi leads us off tonight in the epicenter of the outbreak, New York. Mola?
Well, Nora, nowhere in the city is that death toll higher per capita than right here in the Bronx. It's why Governor Cuomo insists on expanded testing before easing those stay-at-home orders. Meanwhile, some governors in other states are taking the opposite approach. All this while hospitals continue to deal with life and death on a daily basis.
Okay, move, everybody move.
At St. Joseph's Medical Center in Yonkers, New York, life is on a razor's edge when doctors shock this patient's heart, saving him. For now, his fight against coronavirus still continues with the help of a ventilator. As patients fight for survival, debate intensifies over how soon states should reopen for business. A new model often cited by the White House shows no states should reopen before May 1st and that most should not until the end of May. The model shows states like Tennessee shouldn't reopen until May 20th, Texas June 7th, and Georgia June 19th. Yet these states plan to partially reopen over the next several days. This afternoon, Oklahoma Governor Kevin Stitt announced he will open his state in phases beginning Friday. As protesters in Richmond, Virginia, some linked to conservative groups, descended on the state capitol, they demanded Virginia be reopened for business. New York, the epicenter of the crisis, is ramping up testing and renewing efforts to find people who have been potentially exposed to the virus.
Well, we have to put together a tracing army. This is going to be a massive undertaking. Good news is Mayor Michael Bloomberg has volunteered to help us develop and implement the tracing program.
Police in Westport, Connecticut are taking to the skies to test the use of drones fitted with cameras to provide data, including social distancing, heart rate, and fever detection. Beginning this week, new EMT guidelines across the state of New York. Paramedics are not to make life-saving attempts to unresponsive patients. Essentially, do not revive in order to protect first responders from coronavirus exposure. Still, EMTs in New York City say they have yet to adopt the guidelines. The city's 911 calls peaked at nearly 7,300, almost double what used to be a normal day. In recent days, they've returned to pre-coronavirus levels, around 4,000 a day. Still, mostly COVID calls.
I've been with the fire department for 19 years, and I've never in life told so many people in one day that their family is no longer going to be with them.
Every day, EMT Andrew Brock sees the coronavirus's swift cruelty.
With some of them, it's happened so fast. They've been okay, and then they just start to feel a little sick one day, and then the next day, they're gone.
At this call, a middle-aged man is suffering from COVID-like symptoms.
The family wanted him to go get checked out. They're a little worried that they're not going to see him again.
Well, Nora, we were also struck by this pretty remarkable scene out of New York this morning. Healthcare volunteers from out of state heading into their final shifts at city hospitals and being applauded, as you can see, by police officers as they boarded their buses to work. With the cases flattening here in the city, they can now head home with their heads held high as heroes. Nora?
And thanked by the NYPD. Mola, thank you.